Liked by the sound of violence.
I just continue to return to the idea that you got guys out there stripped to the waist, fighting each other in a steel cage for your enjoyment, and like on top of that, we're going to ask them to lie to us about their physical condition.
Yes.
And go out there and continue to fight if this guy is basically a cyclops, if he's a one-eyed man. If Todd Duffy felt like he was hurt to the point where he couldn't go out there and continue in a fight that he was obviously winning, like, I'm going to take his word for it. I don't think you train to get back in the octagon after 4 years away with the idea of, like, if I get the chance, I'm backing out of this thing.
Are you excited about it all?
What up, everybody, and welcome. Oh, fuck, I fucked up the intro. Well, if we were listening to the podcast version of this, you'll actually hear the real version. Que onda, wey? Bienvenidos al Sound of Violence. We are an MMA podcast to let you know the MMA podcast you should catch, skip, and can't miss each week, as well as we try and check out a new show. And I am Pulver. I am back with my co-host, Chris Madaffer. What up, dude?
Well, if that wasn't a clue as to where this fight card is tomorrow night, then yeah. I mean, because half the time when it's a fight night, we don't know where it is, right?
Right. It's for once not on a crazy time, although we're recording on a pretty rare time for us. It's midday on Friday.
Yeah.
If you guys hear some sound on one of our sides, that would be Chris, since he's sitting outside in scenic Tierra Santa, San Diego.
Yeah, you got Mission Trails Park right behind me. Right next to me also is a very panting bulldog.
That's right. There's a bird over there somewhere.
Going on. Yeah, birds chirping and shit. I'm just in fucking nature right now, man.
Sweet, man.
Yeah, and you'll probably hear a couple airplanes during this episode because I'm also right next to Miramar Naval Base.
That's right, and I'm right next to fucking Gillespie Field, so there's going to be all kinds of airplane noise today. But why don't we go ahead and jump into our Papa Vodka presents, Doug Stanhope presents our sponsors. I know it's pretty hot out, so I know you're drinking water, but I heard you have a beer also.
Yeah, so this beer I have is pretty special in that my dad, he did an RV trip recently, kind of like up the coast, but he stopped in Colorado at this place called Ouray Brewery, spelled O-U-R-A-Y. That's how you pronounce it. Colorado craft beer, established 2010. So he filled up a crowler. So I'm drinking out of a 32-ounce can.
Nice.
It's an amber beer.
That sounds real solid.
It's real good. So.
Hell yeah. Well, I this week am fully on theme, and it'll make a little bit more sense as to why here in a bit. But I went out of my way because I'm like, you know what? There is a shitload of Alliance MMA fighters on this card, plus all the interim guys down in Zacatecas, I believe is the name of it, are training with a bunch of the Alliance guys. And so, of course, I had to pick up some Thorn Street beer, because that is essentially the brewery of Alliance MMA. I'm pretty positive. Yeah. They all fucking go there. Down in Barrio Logan. So I picked up the only Thorn beer that Preferred Liquors had, which I was pretty hyped about, because it is it's a collab with Creative Culture called Sad Boy Sour, which is what is this? A sour IPA with coconut and pineapple.
That sounds interesting. Sounds good, though.
It's super fruity and super delicious. It's got like a little bit of a bitter bite, but it's just all fruit. Oh, that's really good. They make a bunch of really good fruit beers. I think they make a raspberry. You know what? They might have made that strawberry beer that I had a little bit, I think on last week's show or the week before. I think they might have made the same one. But yeah, this is delicious. So I'm going to be sipping on that. And then also, I do have, to be on theme as well, I do have Black Plagues Brewing from down here in San Diego, who's, I believe, associated with Tony Hawk and a couple other, I don't know, extreme or sports guys, whatever you call them. But this is their Gothica Mexican lager, which I haven't had, but I'm excited to try that. So, I am excited to get into this week's show. It's been a weird week for MMA podcasts. A lot of shows kind of mailed it in this week, but I actually found a decent amount of shows I really, really enjoyed.
Nice, man. That's good, because I think I maybe listened to like 5 or 6 shows.
I mean, that's fair. You could pretty much... Well, we'll get into what everybody talked about this week that bugged the fuck out of me. I could have listed everyone as a skip this week, but we'll get to that. So why don't we go ahead and get into format before I talk about beer for the entire episode, as I'm one to do. Chris, why don't you start us off with the MMA podcast you recommend people catch this week?
I will go ahead and say, well, which one do I even fucking have? I don't even, it's kind of a mess. I'll just go ahead and say Keyboard Warriors MMA. I haven't listened to these guys in a while.
Wow, yeah, me neither.
They immediately talked about last weekend's card. One of the co-hosts said, I thought it was fucking stupid that Justin Gaethje was worried about hitting Cowboy when he was already faceplant, just finished the fight. I mean, it was more or less, in my opinion, the refs kind of not doing his job when I thought Cowboy was kind of already out.
Yeah, Jaron Villel did himself zero favors in that fight. I think this was episode 162 of Keyboard Warriors.
I believe so. They all like Justin calling out Conor subliminally, and the fact that he said that guy's retired, even though who wouldn't want to fight Conor, I guess, even though that dude has a lot of issues going on. They like Justin as the favorite against Conor in Ireland. I do as well. I mean, at least at this point.
I am shocked there was a lot of Conor talk on this podcast.
I know, right? Other than that, they're just saying I don't even need to say anymore. They discussed fighter payouts from last week, or no, from 2 weekends ago. Do you think really Habib made $6 million? They doubt it, but then one of them made a good point. They're like, well, you know who was ringside, and he probably had a duffel bag full of $6 million. I'm like, that's a good point. Yeah, Tony versus Habib talk. We all know that needs to happen. They talked about Todd Duffy getting poked in the eye, and they think that he quit because he didn't even take the 5 minutes, even though he kept complaining that he needs time.
So, pro tip, there is no 5 minutes for an eye poke. That only counts for ball shots.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Eye pokes, the way it works is as soon as you are cleared to continue, you have to continue. And a lot of times refs will buy you time by bringing in the doctor and kind of giving you some time to let it clear, but there is no set time for eye pokes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's why I was kind of confused when...
A lot of people make that mistake because people just say that. Everybody thinks every foul is 5 minutes, but it's not at all.
They're saying, who won it out more last week, Todd Duffy or Czech Congo? Yeah, that whole thing, right? I didn't watch that fight.
Czech Congo, from the video going around, Czech Congo got thumbed in the nose real hard after he punched in the eye, and then
yeah.
Also, shouts out to fucking OBS because I cannot figure out how to make Chris's video not resize anymore. It was working for a little bit, so if you see a sliver of Chris on video, it'll get better.
They asked the question, is there an opinion on David Branch pissing hot? They consider him a journeyman. I don't know even if I really call him a journeyman because he didn't even have like too many fights in the UFC, and he did look at some of them. So
he didn't look great in the UFC, but his run in WSOF was dominant as fuck.
Yeah.
Also, shouts out to him probably showing up in the next PFL tourney, I would imagine.
Fucking fly. This is the problem with having been outside, trying to get inside my beer. I think David Branch just got released today too.
Yeah, today or yesterday.
Yeah. So
and he only left Dominance MMA as well.
So good luck to him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if he's leaving Ali, good call. Oh, actually, we probably won't see him in PFL now that he's not with Ali. Just realized.
Yeah.
So.
They said who is good. What's next for the winner? I mean, this isn't even until 2 pay-per-views from now. But since everyone's talking about this fight, what does the winner of Jorge Masvidal versus Nate Diaz do next? Do you fight Colby, Usman, or Habib? They think they'll fight Habib. I thought Habib's adamant at stand 155, so who knows? But then again, I don't know. A lot of these podcasts are all over the fucking place.
Yeah.
That's why I only listen to like 5.
A lot of them.
Because because I would, like you said, there's a lot I could skip, and there's a lot that I skipped. Like if I, regardless of it being pay-per-view or not, if I only listen to 5 or 6 podcasts or just a handful, it's probably because I read the description of what your podcast episode entailed, and I was like, I'm out.
Yep.
Or like is what's hip now that SpongeBob mean? I'm a head out. That's basically me.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
a lot of these, I feel like majority of them didn't know or care to talk about UFC Mexico City. So then all of their content revolved around not Jeremy Stevens. All their content revolved around Gaethje versus Cerrone, which of course leads to one discussion and one discussion only, because MMA podcasts have only had the same discussion for the last fucking 5 years.
Yeah, and then the last part of this, they just when they actually talked about tomorrow's fight, they're like, "Oh, Stevens only has to land one shot and it's over. Can Yair keep distance and stay away?" Oh, but the UFC's banking on Yair winning, so Mexico embraces the UFC more. It's like, dude, we already know this.
Yeah, that's a weird dynamic, because they genuinely have shown that they like Jeremy Stevens a fuckload. I mean, they got him out of goddamn jail so he could fight one time. But
He
they also
killed a guy in a bar.
Yeah, but they also clearly want Yair to go over big in Mexico. So it's a weird booking, but.
Well, I originally saw, I think it was supposed to be Brian Ortega versus Yair, some weird shit like 100%. That.
Or Aldo is in talks also. Which
yeah.
I probably would have done pretty well. Aldo's pretty big in Mexico, from what I've heard. Just like he's a big name, and he's like a big South American star.
Yeah,
or Latin American, I should say,
whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So yeah, that was. I mean, every other podcast I'm going to mention anyway, but that's just the one I had the most notes on. To be fair.
Yeah, it seems like a decent one. I'll have to go back and check it. I haven't caught Keyboard Warriors in a bit. Cool, man. So I have a couple catches this week, and I'm just gonna burn through them because they're all real solid. I actually had a lot of shows that I really enjoyed this week, and I had like I said, I had a lot that I could skip, which we'll get to. But Eurobash episode 53 was really solid. At JF757 on Twitter also hit us up talking about it. Just a really goddamn good interview with Joanna and Jacek. Talk a lot about her getting remotivated after going on a break post the Valentina fight. And she talked about being offered Zhang Weili in the past, and it's just a fun interview overall. They talk about KSW 50 for a bit, and they also, Paul Felder calls in a little bit, talk about the elbows from bottom and all the drama surrounding the result of the Edson Barbosa rematch. And they talk a lot. The other thing that they do, like everybody else this week, is they talk a lot about Conor. And who Conor should fight and what's next for Conor. They are, to be fair to them, they do dunk on Conor a lot and talk about how the Irish fans aren't really behind him at all anymore, especially post the bar thing. Like, they were already, you could tell from the WhatsApp chain messages that have been posted all over online, which Ireland is pretty well known for, that people are not big Conor McGregor fans at this point, but hitting the old dude in the bar is definitely what made him jump the shark completely, it seems like, because Pete talked a lot about that. I thought that was fairly interesting.
I'm glad you bring that up, because every time I've talked to Eurobash, I feel if there's any podcast to listen to that's going to mention anything about Conor McGregor, you probably want to listen to an actual Irish podcast.
Yeah, no, I really respect and enjoy the thoughts that Pete and Graham and Sean Sheehan all said. They're very, very...
And
like,
it's also
even
Niall, right?
It.
Their friend Niall.
Yeah. All those guys are very evenly, like, they having worked with Conor a lot on his rise and kind of being in the Irish scene, they are also due to our actual fucking journalists and will say things that aren't always complimentary of Conor, which is great, because it's fucking much needed, and it's your goddamn job. So that's why I really respect guys like Sean and Niall and Pete and Graham and all those guys. Because while, especially like guys like Graham, like, they definitely are big Conor fans, but they definitely will not hesitate to be like, dude's clearly fucking up, and I don't know if we're ever going to see a good version of him come back. So it's always an interesting discussion to hear.
what's funny too is I didn't realize for a while, like when I was hearing him say pizza, for some reason, this is like when I first listened to him a while back. I was like, are they saying pizza, Carroll?
Oh,
And I'm like,
man.
no, they're saying Peter Carroll because they're not going to call him Pete Carroll because that's the fucking head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, and you don't want to confuse American listeners. So I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Yeah, right. Yeah, we got Pete Carroll.
Yeah,
head
Pete
coach of
Carroll
the
and Shawnee
Seahawks.
podcasts.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so good. Pizza Carroll. We're definitely tweeting something about that later.
Yeah, I swear to God. You know what? And
really
you know what? I would make an excuse saying I was high or drunk, but I think I was sober, which makes it better. I was like, why the fuck is this dude saying pizza? I'm like, it's gotta be his accent. And I looked at it, I was like, oh, Peter Carroll. I'm like, oh, I'm dumb. There you go.
Yeah, they call him Pizza. That's super funny. Cool, man. Well, let's see. I had a couple other catches that I'll burn through. Gross Point Blank for September 19th, 2019 was really good. It's Josh Gross's podcast on The Athletic. He talks about working on a piece about MMA in Latin America outside of Brazil and Mexico, and a lot of talk about that. He also has an interview with Juan Archuleta in the lead up to the upcoming, I guess the end of this round of the Bellator tournament, which I think is next week, is that big card, so that's going to be dope as hell. He's fighting Pitbull. So.
Let's see, that's like one of the, remember how I'm honest about Bellator, and I'm like, there's only a few fights that'll convince me to watch. That's one of them. So
that whole card, dude, is fucking stacked. Like, that's a dope card. We are definitely covering that next week because it's going to be real good. But yeah, they talk a lot about that. Talk a lot about his fight with Pitbull. He talks training with TJ and kind of still being supportive of dude since he's with that whole team. And working with Sam, I almost said Calgione. It's not the lead brewer of Dogfish Head.
Well, either way, you said an Italian name, so you're kind of right either way.
What's his name? Sam
Calavita,
thank you. Man, I'm surprised Sam Calgione has not made a fucking sweaty beer or something weird with that.
You might as well just call him Sam Calzone.
Yeah.
Sam Calzone.
There you go. They also talk a bit about Juan Archuleta has been in talks with Andy Foster and the California State Athletic Commission over his weight, because he was 159, I believe, when they called him and had him do a FaceTime weigh-in, because the California State Athletic Commission does that stuff. And since he's more than 10% of his body weight, because he fights at 45.
Say it's 10%, right?
Yeah, so they're on him about that. And Josh actually got a statement from Andy Foster about it, because dude went pretty hard. Like, Juan went pretty fucking hard at the Athletic Commission, just saying, like, oh, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They don't know how weight cutting works. Da-da-da. It's like, their whole point is they don't want you to cut weight, dog. That's their whole point. Yeah. But it's interesting hearing his side of it, because we don't hear fighters come out a lot of times and just say, like, yo, the Athletic Commission doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about in regards to weight cutting. So I thought that was interesting for sure. And I just really like Josh's podcast. Like, Josh is a very informed and very, like, all his opinions are very well thought out, and I just really enjoy all the shows he's done, from everything from The Outsiders on, and Josh Gross, God damn it, Gross Point Blank on Short Dog Radio Network back in the day too. So
yeah, dude, Josh Point Blank.
Yeah, Josh Point Blank. Oh, he would fucking hate that name. And then my other catch for this week was The Writer and the Fighter, episode 46. First off, a lot of food talk on this episode, which I always find hilarious. Jake and David almost go at each other over Red Vines versus Twizzlers, which is pretty great. And then, they talk a lot about cheesies, I think, for all our Canadian listeners probably know it.
As a former junk food junkie, Red Vines all day.
Oh, you see, we're about to have to fight too, because it's goddamn Twizzlers, my dude.
Twizzlers taste like some fucking waxy bullshit, dude.
Okay. Well, good news is Red Vines also taste like waxy bullshit.
Yeah,
they both taste like trash.
Oh, they're terrible. Like,
one of them has a flavor. The other one has like a weird. Fucking Red Vines taste like wax lips. You ever try those wax lips candies back in the day? I
think so. Can I trigger even more? Red Vines black licorice. Actually, no, that's terrible. I have real black licorice.
I can't do anise, yeah.
No. You gotta, if you're gonna have black licorice, you gotta get like the, it's called Panda, or like the Australian brand. That's just the best fucking, for all the black licorice lovers out there.
See,
goddamn.
The only black licorice I am fucking with is in the absinthe variety.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Or
that,
if I, or if
maybe
I,
Jaeger.
yeah, well, or if I lose a bet, I have been known to have to take a shot of Galliano, which is very not fun. Nothing like sweet black licorice liqueur to really make you feel like you lost a bet.
Shouts out to my grandma, R.I.P. She was the one who kind of raised me on black licorice. That's the only reason why I like black licorice, because she, every time I'd visit her house when I was a kid, hey, you want some candy? And then when you're a kid, candy's good. And then,
like,
when you're
this isn't candy.
I'm like, this doesn't taste good, but I just kept eating it. I'm like, oh, this is amazing now. It's like, sure. So
That's funny. So some other stuff on that episode that was really solid. Mostly this is a catch for me because Jake talks very openly about his fight with Adam Piccolotti that he lost last weekend, 2 weekends ago, whenever that was. And it's always interesting to hear a fighter, first off, fairly quickly off of a loss, talk so openly about it. And Jake especially is just one of those dudes who wears his heart on his sleeve and will tell you how the fuck he feels. And he kind of walks through what he remembers of the fight. He talks about his ribs being super banged up. And it was just an interesting discussion to hear kind of his thoughts on it. And he hadn't rewatched the fight yet, so he was pretty hard on himself. Dude did real well in the beginning of that fight. He smashed Piccolotti with a shot that forced Piccolotti to start wrestling real goddamn quick. And I thought he looked super competitive in the early goings of that thing. So it was just cool to hear him talk so openly about it. And then afterwards, he talks about going out. Like, I guess they were all supposed to go out to pizza afterwards. All of a sudden, everyone was looking around trying to figure out where Jake is at. And Jake evidently went to the cookie bar and was just smashing cookies, which is fucking hilarious. And I guess they ended up going to some super sketchy Mexican restaurant late at night, too. So I just found it interesting.
How sketchy is in the how? Like, how the fuck's a restaurant sketchy?
Well, it's a Mexican restaurant in Fresno at 2 a.m.
Oh,
and by restaurant, I mean taco shop, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah.
And he says, pro tips, don't eat Mexican food when you have fucked up ribs, because it makes for a long night.
Yeah, because Mexican food, everyone knows, expands like crazy in your stomach. So have fun.
Also, yeah, the after effects, also not great.
Reason why I don't usually eat Mexican food, because I don't want to be in a coma.
I've had Mexican food the last 3 days in a row.
Wow.
Well, not all of it was my choice, but sometimes
as long as you're not like eating like fucking giant California burritos and shit.
No,
like,
I've been going fish. Like yesterday I went to Old Town Mexican Cafe, got some fish tacos there. That was solid. Yeah,
that place has really good margaritas too.
Yeah, luckily, unfortunately, it was a work lunch at like 11 a.m., so I couldn't exactly get margaritas without getting a side eye. Especially,
I mean, you can, but you'll just get a side.
I could, but when I'm not going to say who, but we'll say people I work with who are known to drink heavily, who I've seen in bars at 6 a.m., they weren't drinking, so I'm like, probably shouldn't be drinking.
Oh, that's a good judgment call.
Yeah. Sometimes I like to look like I know what I'm doing. But yeah, those were my catches for this week. I honestly could have had 3 or 4 more. There was a lot of shows that I really liked, but those are the ones that stood out especially. Cool, man. Well, we will keep on moving on. Do you have any skips for this week?
I have like 7, but okay. I'm not going to say them.
Well, here, before you even start, I will say, just because Eugene S. Robinson style disclaimer, just because we say to skip your show doesn't mean we hate you or we hate your show. Just means the episode that we listened to might not have been worth the time to listen to it.
Well, I guess I'll kind of say one of them. I'll just say one. And like I said, this show always makes me laugh, regardless if it's a skip or not. Believe You Me, the episode titled Knee Jerk Reaction. I mean, well, I'll say this. For like the first 40 minutes or 35 minutes, there's no fight talk.
They really, excuse me, they don't talk about fights anymore. No,
Michael's getting knee replacement surgery. Then they discussed that new Saturday Night Live cast member named Shane Gillis, who Lewis is really good friends with. He said some really racist shit about Asians, specifically Chinese people, and on his like podcast, and then immediately got fired after that.
Speaking of which, funniest thing that ever happened this week is Brendan Schaub saying, "I didn't even think the Chinese jokes he made were bad." Brendan Schaub, who also recently
I
made
also
the UFC doctor sound like he was a fucking ultra foreign dude.
out of curiosity, I looked at what the guy said, and it's like, just based on his body language and the fact that it's a podcast, it almost seems like it's blatantly racist, even if you're just kidding. Like, there was no
it's just
cadence
lazy.
behind it. It was just lazy. He was just like, I'm not even going to repeat what he said, but it's even his co-host is worse. I was like, Jesus. Yeah, it was. I'll say one thing. They said, one part of the podcast, I remember like saying, they literally said, Chinese food is so fucking bad that they had to invent MSG just so that we can tolerate its shitty cuisine. Like, what? And then it's like, dude.
Yeah, that's like very lazy 80s comedy.
Yeah, and then I'll just say this. I've been to Chinatown in New York. I still need to go to San Francisco. The fucking dim sum there is amazing. I don't go fuck what anyone says.
Well,
so
also,
shut the fuck up.
Anybody that says Chinese food is bad, it doesn't understand food, evidently.
Yeah, hey, all those in San Diego, I know there's some good Chinese spots. If you're in Claremont or Kearny Mesa, go to Fortune Cookie Express on Balboa.
Yeah, that place is actually very fucking solid.
Thank me.
Yeah.
That place is amazing. So I've been a loyal customer there for the past like 7 years.
Yeah, it's
And
very
the
solid.
thing is, I have it maybe like once every 3 weeks because I don't eat Chinese food, but when I do, I go there. I fucking enjoy myself. So shout out to those guys. Those guys are the shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, fuck Lewis. Sorry, Lewis. Fuck your friend. He's a moron. He was all butthurt and crying about his friend. Who cares? The guy's a fucking idiot. Then they actually decided to start talking about fights. Justin Gaethje talked.
How
talk
long
about
until
Todd
Conor
Duffy.
McGregor came up?
They mentioned him for a second, and then Michael talked about, hey, that Michelle Prahea guy is juiced to the gills, and he's a not black flipping moron, he's a back flipping moron.
Big difference.
Yeah. Shouts out to my shitty notes here. Yeah, what'd you think about that fight, by the way? I know a lot of people are talking about that guy was a fucking idiot.
I mean, I guess people haven't seen Michelle Prahea fights before.
No. I was watching it at work. Yeah, it was slow because Saturdays are slow for us at work, and my coworker was having just a beer after work, and then I was like, "Hey, look at this idiot! I guarantee he gasses out the first round." And as he's like jumping on him, and then what happens the rest of the fight? The guy's like done.
Yeah,
I'm like, come on, man.
I guess
what the fuck are you doing?
I guess people never watched the Road FC fights where he did that over and over again, where he's wild for like 3-4 minutes and then just gasses and tries to throw knees in the clinch.
Johnny Walker, if Johnny Walker just didn't have any skill.
Oh, you mean when Johnny Walker doesn't finish somebody in the first round? That is 100% what we're going to see. I'm positive. If you watch some of Johnny Walker's earlier fights, if he doesn't finish you early, it looks a lot like that.
Oh shit! Well, too shaded then, I guess, right?
But yeah, I don't know. I don't understand. I guess the only thing I can figure is no one watched Road FC because he literally has done the turnaround backflip stomp onto a dude's body, which we talked about on last week's episode. Although he landed it to the head on that one, which was illegal.
I was gonna say.
However, it's illegal to do it to the body too. You can't fucking stomp somebody's body. You can do an axe kick. You can do a regular kick. You can't stomp. So I don't know. I guess none of it surprised me. It was fun to watch for like the 3 minutes that it happened, and then it was equally fun to watch just a hard-nosed dude break him down over time. So I'm fine with it both ways. I mean, I don't see that big a difference between dudes like him and dudes like Ngannou early in his career, where he's just throwing fucking the wildest haymakers, and if they land, they're great, and if they don't, you get wrestle-fucked by Stipe. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could definitely see why that's a skip.
How about you, man? What's your skip?
So, I actually don't have a skip this week, and that's because at the beginning of the week, I started making a list of all the people who talked about future Conor McGregor matchups, and it was fucking everyone. There's no reason to talk about it. Just because Justin Gaethje wins doesn't mean you have to match him up against a dude who's fought once since 2016. And he's not relevant to the division. I don't know why everyone brings it up. He's not going to fight anytime soon. I'll talk about that later, but it blows my mind that everyone keeps fucking doing this. I get that he got all your podcast ratings 3 fucking years ago. I get that you maintained ratings for 2 fucking years just by talking about him. I don't understand why everyone's still doing it when clearly nobody gives a fuck at this point. If you look at most audience reactions to most of these shows that have been talking in depth about who Conor should fight, it is the most casual and starting to become a smaller and smaller number of people who give a fuck. And you're starting to see more and more in comments and on Twitter that everyone's like, why the fuck are we talking about a dude who doesn't fight and who is quote unquote retired? So if I started a list, it was almost every podcast I listened to that talked about it. So I gave up on that because I can't just list every podcast as a skip, because then what are we even doing? But also it's hard to grade between, well, if they're talking about potential Conor matchups versus if they're talking about why are you talking about potential Conor matchups, and starts getting like blurred and like who do I include versus exclude and all that. But just every segment where they talked about whether Gaethje should fight Conor, all of those should be skips, in my opinion. At least that segment.
I just want to trigger you one last time. So, in all seriousness, based on what Conor tweeted out, which looked like he was doing some sort of like bicycle marathon or some shit, the way he was dressed. He also tweeted a picture of him finishing Poirier, which is hilarious. Hilarious in that it's irrelevant at this point. But
because it was half a decade ago?
Yes. My point is, December 14th, 2019, right? Whatever. I doubt that even happened.
You mean the anniversary of the anal rape accusations?
Yes. That's, yeah, no, I'm done talking about it. Yeah. It's just like, it's just no point, because he's not going to fight.
No.
He's not going to fight.
And even if he is, he's not a ranked fighter. I mean, he is, according to the hot trash UFC rankings, but losing one fight, your only fight since 2016, does not get you included in the rankings, and does not mean anyone should give a fuck about who your next matchup is. So I don't know. I don't get it. But then again, I am notoriously a Conor hater, and I am the worst when it comes to that. As I've been accused of, and pretty much everyone else who talks negatively about Conor, even at this point. But you know,
this is the thing, like, and I've said it time and time again. Outside of the octagon, the guy's a fucking idiot. When he's inside the cage, like, I focus on the fighter. I want to see him fight because I like how he fights.
I'm still not convinced dude can fight wrestlers, though.
No. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying either way, I'm always excited when he fights. It doesn't matter to me who he's fighting because the guy's an exciting fighter. That's my point.
He was.
Like, outside of that, I don't care because outside of the octagon, he's a fucking moron. Same with like John Jones and other fighters you can name too.
Yeah, so. I'm just not convinced that dude is still an exciting fighter. I'm not convinced dude is still a fighter, to be fair.
Oh no, he's a whiskey salesman. He's a whiskey pitchman.
I mean, he enjoys whiskey for sure. I don't know how much he's actually selling it. I would argue probably none.
He enjoys a whiskey and Coke, and when I say that, I mean both whiskey and Coke. So,
correct, sir. Correct.
Yeah.
Well, also, to be fair, you need something to cut the fucking terrible aftertaste of Proper 12. So, a line or two might not hurt.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I'll go ahead and jump into my can't miss since it's a good segue. If the Shoes Fit, Dublin, December. Miss Tech is guesting. Miss Tech is an old Bloody Elbow contributor from back in the day, and she's on with Alexi and Eugene S. Robinson, since Kid Nate's kind of taken a back seat on that show because he doesn't give a fuck about MMA anymore, which, I mean, fair. But the reason why I didn't include every single show pretty much as a skip for me, and I instead chose to pick If the Shoe Fit as a can't miss, is because they're the only show who didn't talk really at all about who Conor should fight. They talked exclusively about why the fuck Conor's still running his mouth when if you have any kind of PR team at all, you should be absolutely silent. They talk about why we're probably not going to see Proper 12 back in the cage as a sponsor, which means Conor's probably losing a fuckload of money that he had coming in, which means he has even less leverage than he did before, because the odds are they're not going to be saying, hey, everyone go buy Proper 12, the brand that is known for hitting old dudes in the face. I'm guessing that's not the kind of PR that Endeavor and those guys want to actually promote. And they also talk a lot about Conor being misty if he thinks he's going to get any more than 2 more fights at the pay he wants, which I thought was a really interesting point that Eugene brought up. And of course, all this is dependent on whether or not he actually gets indicted on the rape case or not. Because if he gets indicted on the rape case, dude's done. UFC won't touch him again. They'll drop him immediately. And even if he doesn't, it's still going to be a topic conversation.
I'll give you one, not counter argument, but counterpoint. Mr. Greg Hardy himself was convicted in the court of law, set to do prison time, but he got away with it by paying off the accuser. He was convicted, so it wasn't an accuser.
They settled, yeah.
The victim.
Well, actually, technically, yeah, he theoretically.
So
the theory is that he paid someone not to show up to court, which is quite possible that'll be what happens with Conor.
I don't put it past Conor to do that.
Yeah, I'm guessing they'll settle. But
I'm telling you right now. So, don't get me wrong. If he's not in the UFC anymore, that doesn't surprise me. But if he's still in the UFC, a la Greg Hardy, doesn't surprise me either. So
yeah, very, very good point. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. And yeah, Eugene brought up that he doesn't think Conor will actually get paid anywhere near what he wants after 2 fights. Because they're not going to, especially if he loses again, they're not going to keep paying dude $1 million to show up super lackluster and drop fights. They're not going to keep paying him what he wants. And is Conor going to show up for $500,000 or $250,000? I mean, eventually, after he runs through enough of money, maybe. But that is all the Conor talk we're going to have. I mostly just wanted to bring it up because it's refreshing to see Eugene S. Robinson and Alexi and them not hesitate to talk openly about, hey, they're the only ones. It was them and I think there was 1 or 2 other people that, very briefly mentioned it, but most shows just don't talk about it at all. Don't talk about it. Yeah. And it's disingenuous, and it really makes you question what the fuck the show is doing. Because why not talk about it unless you're afraid of losing access, which I'm pretty sure everyone is. So I just found it interesting. But that was one of my can't misses. Chris, did you have a can't miss for this week?
I mean, I'm just going to probably mention everything, but I'll go ahead and just say it's Heavy Hands. They said it's another this weekend's card. Tomorrow's card is another one of these cards where sometimes it shakes out all right. That's a good point. I love the fight nights. They liked last week's card. Phil was entertained last weekend by the sheer weirdness and crazy stuff. We know what he means by that. They said in this fight we'll find out how much of a pressure fighter Stevens really is, and can he dictate the range in front of him? Can he be efficient? What do we expect from Yair losing most of his fight against Korean Zombie? Yada yada yada. Obviously, like most of the time with Heavy Hands, it's a fight preview.
Yeah, I think this was episode 281. It was real solid. I always enjoy the jokes about how much everyone's going to get to hear about elevation and smog levels during the fight, which will 1,000% be the case. Also, Phil had one of my favorite. This was actually almost a clip for me. Was Phil's comments about how Gaethje's boring now because he's slipping jabs and countering.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, it's. The funny thing is, you think of Mexico City, when it comes to combat sports in Mexico, that's Mexico's favorite sport in general. I'd say even above soccer. I know people are going to really get mad right now, but I think it's true. Boxing is way more popular. Not way more, but it's definitely more popular than soccer. And my point I'm making is the NFL always has now a game every year in Mexico City. Not saying Mexicans don't like American football,
MLB does that too, right?
Yeah. What I'll say is every game that they've had in Mexico City, the soccer field is in shit asshole condition. And since the fans are so rowdy, they have to put up fucking chain link fences. In between. I'm not even kidding you.
So you're saying the audience is basically a giant cage fight?
Yes. My point is it's the same combat sports mentality. And what happened last year, I think, or 2 years ago, the Patriots or someone played a team, right, in Mexico City. Some fan tried to laser pointer Tom Brady in the eye, and they had to stop play and fucking kick the dude out of the stadium. What the fuck?
Gotta love Mexico sometimes, man.
Yeah, I mean, and this year it's the Chargers and the Chiefs, which is going to be a fucking comedy shit show. So probably be a pretty fucking entertaining game. But either way, anyone that plays there is just so funny. But yeah, that's my point. Is Mexican fans or just combat sports enthusiasts? I'd say they're the best, arguably.
And
They are.
they wild the fuck out too.
Yeah, it's great. Like I remember, my good friend Jorge, he would always invite me to his house, and his whole family would have all the fucking boxing pay-per-views.
Oh yeah,
So fun.
Yeah,
They'd
most
have
of
all
my
this
Mexican
food.
buddies. Too.
Hey man, what can I do to help? Hey, just bring a shitload of beer. I'm like, I got you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Thanks.
chelas, and chelas.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I'm excited for the fight tomorrow. I'll be watching it at work, I think, for the most part. Or no, I think I'll get up. I'll figure it out. But yeah, man.
Yeah, it should be a fun one for sure. Cool. Yeah, that was a solid episode of Heavy Hands. So my other can't miss is actually our clip for the upcoming break. TJ, please don't send me a C&D. I'm not. I think TJ's pissed at me about something, but I don't know what. But MMA stories. This is the show I talked about last week, which is on Between Rounds Radio with Monty Cox and Jeremy Horn talking about the old school days of MMA. This episode is Cox and Horn on the Wild Wild Midwest days, and it's fucking great. You want to hear stories about Jeremy Horn fighting in a warehouse in the middle of downtown Atlanta with just like one of those little like light bulbs hanging from a chain on open mats while there are people in tuxedos and drinking champagne watching them? You can watch. You can hear that story. You want to hear? Go ahead.
I was gonna say that sounds like the final fight of like a shitty It Man sequel or like a Never Back Down sequel that should never been made.
1,000%, and his description of it's even better. You want to hear stories about Monty Cox putting on shows with 56 fights in them. 56 fight show, because he would just make a bracket for each weight class, and then they would just have tournaments all night. 56 fucking fights. You want to hear?
How much cocaine was there?
Yeah. You want to hear stories about Jeremy Horn reffing what is the video on YouTube is entitled "The Worst Fight in MMA History," which is the one where 17 or 18-year-old Ben Rothwell beats the fuck out of a fat dude who's an amateur. That story's on there too. You want to hear stories about Midwest journeymen like Travis Fulton and his insane number of fights, or Jennifer Howe's crazy run? Absolutely, you can find out about that. You want to hear how hard it was for them to matchmake guys like Jeremy Horn and Matt Hughes against fair competition? So they would make rules like, Matt, if you take a guy down, you have to stand back up and start fighting with him on the feet. That story's in there too. It's fucking incredible. It's incredible. It's the only outside of TJ's show that I think is on hiatus, Collapse MMA. There are no other old school MMA podcasts that go in depth on crazy stories about the, like they said, the Wild Wild West days, or in this case, the Wild Wild Midwest days. It's crazy. Just all the best stories about people fighting in barns and TJ reffing fucking fights somehow. It's ridiculous, and I can't recommend it more.
I only ask when. So was he fighting with Matt? Was it Rothwell fighting with Matt Hughes?
No, Rothwell was fighting just some dude who was an Ami who was like 5'8" and very, very, very fat. They didn't make the guy take his shirt off.
Because I just in my head canon or whatever you want to call it, fan fiction, I would hope Matt Hughes at one point fought at a train yard, just as a fun sort of foreshadow.
I mean, he definitely fought in a lot of barns, and he definitely fought a train once, but it didn't go well for him.
Yeah, and he's from the Midwest too, right? So he definitely was involved with some trains.
Well, yeah, later in life as well, but...
Yeah, I guess he's just not too good at staying off the tracks when it's coming.
Oh,
So.
all right, Colby, take it easy. Next, you're going to be yelling about unions.
Yeah, right? And yeah, shouts out to Colby for burning all his bridges, the dumb motherfucker,
Dude,
right?
that motherfucker is like, just
idiot.
team no friends.
Like,
fucking
at this
Jesus.
point, there's no way he's friends with Mazda anymore, and if he still
No,
is,
definitely
then
not.
they're just pulling off some dumb prank.
They
It's just
almost
like,
fought at
hey.
a UFC show in the audience recently, because the rumor is Colby stiffed a trainer.
Yeah, he didn't pay his coach.
Yeah, which is
An idiot.
fucking ridiculous. That fucking moron. That dude
and
is
also
tanked his career.
Shouts out to the two most uninspiring welterweights in the world, him and Marty Usman, because they both think they're worth more than they are.
To be
and
fair,
Marty Usman is
they
a
are
terrible
two
champion.
of the best fighters we've ever seen at 170, and they are both.
Oh no, you're
just
actually
doing
right.
themselves
I'm
no
not like no
favors.
joke. Like they're fucking fantastic fighters. They're terrible outside of the octagon, both of them. Like
Yeah,
no, like
Marty's way better, but yeah.
Yeah, he's but not by a lot. I had to unfollow him. Like every post of it is him like sleeping with his belt. He's like, and it's like it
Well,
reminds
that's
me
all
like,
Ali, right?
yes, but it's like it reminds me. Oh wait, you always hang around with fucking Henry. It's just like, oh god.
It's Ali. It's the same person runs both the accounts. That's why it's unbearable.
That's why I'm glad of all the people who have Ali as their manager. I feel like the only one on Twitter that doesn't let him take over is probably Gaethje. Other than that,
Oh yeah, Gaethje actually does. Well, he
Gaethje
still does
actually
some stuff, but yeah. Yeah, Gaethje is like the most legit of the unlegit Ali dudes.
I'll say credit to Ali. He's probably going to get Frankie Edgar a title shot in like a fight or two. So good for him.
Again, somehow.
Yeah.
Fucking, I don't know. Yeah, anyway. Before I just get fucking terrorized, I'm gonna move on. Let's see. Did you have any new shows that you listened to this week?
No. Yeah, no. I mean,
Understandable. There isn't. I haven't been seeing a ton of new. Well, that's not true. I haven't been seeing a ton of new shows that, like, from this past week. One that I did come across though that I don't think we've talked. Well, we kind of haven't talked about in the past is Between the Links, which is a show from the Loudmouth MMA guys. I say we haven't talked about it. However, we have talked about the previous version of this show, Around the Cage, which got rebranded to Between the Links. This is essentially the, I forget which ESPN format this is. I think it's ESPN. It's one of those sports talk formats where they have a bunch of guys come on and debate, and then people drop off as they debate.
oh, like so around
the horn. Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah, I will still watch that show at work. I'm gonna go fuck. It's entertaining to me because it's just people literally speaking what they want to fucking talk about. Like
Yeah.
I can't knock that.
You
That's
should-
the one ESPN show. And shouts out to God damn it, I always forget his name. Tony something. Like, he's been on that show since like 2004. But like, yeah, it's just you get journalists and then they just talk shit to each other. It's great.
Yeah. If you like it, then you should definitely check out Between the Links because it's essentially the same thing.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely checked it out.
Yeah, I enjoyed it for what it is. It's not like I'm not necessarily the dude who always enjoys like the just fucking shit talk for shit talk's sake kind of thing when it comes to that. Like the whole fucking skip. I'm just gonna say shit to say shit, and like your opinion is wrong because it's not my opinion type shit.
You just reminded me, dude. Undisputed on Fox Sports, they're probably going to attempt to try to talk about Masvidal versus Diaz.
No,
You
that would
already
be
know.
great.
He's probably like, here's the thing, Skip. You don't know shit about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so...
Yep. 100%. I was just about to make that same joke.
Yeah, I like Shannon Sharp.
I do
think
too. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's ridiculous, but I like him.
especially about when he talks about Antonio Clown, who, by the way, just got cut by the Patriots today, and I'm not going to talk about why, just to say he is an alleged rapist and piece of shit. So, Antonio Brown, you and Conor McGregor should hang out. You both are insane.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Boy. Well, let's see. Oh, so not Around the Cage, Between the Links. They rebranded. This was episode 18. Mike Heck is the host, and the panel is Keith Schillen, Craig Allen, and Davidson Baker. And they have the special guest Kyle Steele on. Well, if you guys know Around the Horn, it's essentially the same format. It's a debate show. They have 45 seconds to answer, and they're judged on a 10-point must system. And it's just based on who presents the argument the best. And they go around, they eliminate people as they go through the rounds. It's very interesting. There are a lot of questions like, could Justin Gaethje be the guy to beat Habib? What's next for Cerrone? Should Pereira be getting destroyed for his performance? Who needs to win more, Stevens or Yair? What fight outside the main event are you interested to see? And what does Conor's tweet about Dublin December 14th mean? Which none of them said it was the anniversary of his rape charge, so I'm guessing that it's not the most relevant talk about it, but yeah. Anyway, Done talking about that, dude. That was the problem I had during every one of these podcasts. Eventually, they're like, "So should Conor fight Gaethje, or like, do you think he's gonna get skipped over and they'll just do Khabib Conor?" You're like, "What are we doing? What are we doing?"
No, I think what really does happen is I do think it's Khabib versus Tony next.
Yeah, it absolutely has to be.
And I do think they really do Gaethje and Conor. They do. They're gonna do it.
Oh,
Why not?
Because it's gonna be forever
No,
from now.
It doesn't. Yeah, well, yeah, Gaethje won't my take, but why the fuck not at this point?
I mean,
the guy's already insulting Conor, and I mean,
rape
Conor
charges is why not. Rape charges is why not.
Oh, no, I know. Like, trust me, I'm the one few people that realize that this is not. I'm saying, if that fight does happen, he's gonna fight Gaethje, even though Conor would rather fight either Khabib or fucking Dustin.
Yeah.
But Dustin even just said the other day, "Hey, I might go up to 170 at this point for fun." So
yeah, and if fucking Fedor's brother can get cleared to fight, he could fight also. It's not gonna fucking happen, and I'm so tired of hearing about it. Anyway, so do you have any MMA podcasts you recommend people also check out this week? Some honorable mentions?
Yeah, honorable mention goes out to the Mookie and Crookie show. They talk about Cain Velasquez being successful in Lucha Libre. They love Justin Gaethje. They talk about Oscar De La Hoya in Boxing News, how his empire is crumbling.
Yeah.
They talked about the Fury versus Otto Wallin fight. I saw that fight. That fight was fucking crazy.
Yeah, I heard that cut was crazy in the first round.
Yeah, Wallin, I don't know why he didn't try to keep committing to that left hook to get that cut, but okay. You literally could have won that fight and derailed a lot of hype for Fury versus Wilder too, but okay. That's how it is. By the way, speaking of Oscar De La Hoya being a madman, did you see who Canelo is fighting next?
No.
Sergey Kovalev, a man who's two full weight classes above him. So good luck.
Weird,
He's fighting
but okay.
light heavyweight. Yeah. So good luck to you, Canelo. I don't care anymore, but yeah, good luck. Shouts out to co-main event.
Yeah, co-main. Which episode was that? It was 372. That was really solid. That was actually our intro for this week, mostly because I think Chad Dundas had the most reasonable take on the Todd Duffy situation, which is that if we're going to demand half naked people in a steel cage fight, essentially as a Cyclops, then what the fuck are we doing as MMA fans? Like, if dude says he can't see, you can't just be like, "Oh yeah, but dog, you didn't want to fight though." I get it. I get that. As a fighter, your instinct generally is not, "Hey, I can't see, I shouldn't fight." But
bro, I've been in like 100 street fights, and like I've been missing a fucking finger and an eye, and I still fucking brought it, bro.
Yeah,
like, okay.
A lot of people had real trash takes about that this week, and I just found it refreshing to hear Ben Folks be like, "Yeah, I mean, dude's already fighting half naked in a steel cage. I don't think it's realistic for us to also have them."
He's fighting at heavyweight.
Yeah, it's not realistic to have them also fight as a Cyclops. So I thought that was a decent take.
Yeah.
They also talked a bit about the antitrust suit and some of the numbers coming out of that, which was cool. Let's see. I had some other honorable mentions. MMA Roadshow episode 234 was really good. This easily could have been a catch for me. It probably should have been, to be honest. This is as close as you can get to a catch. John Morgan is in Mexico City with his guest Rodrigo Del Campo, and they're talking a lot about the Mexico Fox deal, which is so fucked. Essentially, if you're a fight fan in Mexico, you have to have Fight Pass to watch the fight. Then you have to have a cable package where you can watch it on one of the 3 Fox Sports channels. Then you also have to pay an extra, I think, $10 a month for the premiere version of Fox, which lets you see the main cards, which is like, fucking Jesus, way to make it easy for Mexican fans to get into the goddamn sport. It's a mess. They talk a bit about how there isn't a lot of promotions or feeder leagues for, or even just ways to make it to the UFC from Mexico. For a while they had the what do they call that? Greg Hardy was on one, Mackenzie Dern was on one, where they pay dudes to train.
Yeah, I'm blanking.
I keep wanting to say a feeder contract, but that's not right. It's it's not prospect. It's essentially where they're building up young fighters and paying them to go train at a big gym. That's where dudes like Yair came from. All the guys out of Jackson's. I think AKA had a bunch of guys. I think ATT had a bunch of guys. But they're evidently no longer doing that developmental program. They're no longer doing the developmental program in Mexico, which is interesting. And kind of a bummer because it kind of shut down the pipeline of Mexican fighters to the UFC. So it was interesting hearing him talk about that. Rodrigo also talked about Michael Quinones started a promotion in Zacatecas. And the Zacatecas government sponsored a house for all the interim fighters and all the alliance fighters to do their camp. So that's why people like Jeremy Stevens, Angie Hill, I know Polo Reyes is down there. Yeah, all the interim guys. And then also, who was the other? Sajara Eubanks, too. Since she's working with Alliance a bit. They have all been down there for about 6 weeks. And evidently the government sponsored them to all come down and train in Mexico City.
That's rad.
So, yeah, since, of course, Eric Del Fierro has a relationship with the interim guys, and they kind of cross-train and everything. So I thought that was really interesting to hear because I hadn't heard anybody talk about that. So that was, apart from I think Jeremy Stevens talked about it a little bit this week. They did an interview with Jeremy, and he is fucking fired up. He's been training with Ferguson off and on, evidently, as well.
Yep. Yeah, I've been even Tony. I follow both of them on social media, and I remember in an interview he talked about. Since Tony's just the master of just conditioning and cardio, I mean, I know people are like, oh, what about Nate? It's like, I get it, because every time someone brings it up on Reddit,
fucking
it's like, chill
Diaz.
the fuck out.
The Diaz brothers cardio is very good. It's also very overrated.
Yes, thank you. It's just like, fuck. Like, I'll say this. I think I've admitted before, my favorite fighter in all the UFC is Tony Ferguson, because he's so flowy and different, and he just puts up like, dude, if you can implement fucking Wing Chun, which I'm not gonna say it's a real martial art. It's not a good martial art for real fighting. If you could implement that into your game and makes it a real tactical martial arts, that means you're doing something right.
Well, and not just that, the performance he put on against RDA in Mexico City at Elevation, where it's the 4th and 5th round, and he's just not even breathing hard, dancing.
In like the 5th round, he was doing the fucking salsa and disco.
Yeah, he's just salsa dancing and fucking him
like
up.
this, like fucking John Travolta and fucking Staying Alive. The dude didn't give a fuck.
Yeah,
like
it's
that
amazing.
dude. He's my favorite fighter. He's the most fun person. I'd say him and Gaethje, or at least in my top 3. Like every time they fight, yes, I am watching no matter what. No matter 100%. What. Him, Gaethje, and then I don't know who else. I'd have to figure it out. But it's just like that's just how it is. It's just like
100%.
But yeah, I remember Stevens is talking about they would do a bunch of like incline hill sprints up like some massive steep fucking road, and basically Tony would be behind him saying, I'm gonna get you, motherfucker, I'm gonna catch you, and Jeremy's like, holy shit, this dude's gonna try to actually get my ass, like
evidently
he's racing up a hill.
Yeah, evidently they're training for like 6 hours straight, just every day, just going hard as fuck. He's like, me and Tony are very much the same dude. We have very similar mentalities, which I thought was cool to hear. Let's see. Oh, he also just straight up says Yair can't wrestle for shit multiple times during the interview, which is exactly what you want to hear if you think Jeremy Stevens is going to win this fight. You're like, if you're saying the dude can't wrestle, that's a good sign.
I'll say is if bantamweight fighter Frankie Edgar, well, Frankie's a talented motherfucker. Don't get me wrong, he was the 55 champion,
but he fucking housed Yair.
Small. Yeah. If someone that's 5 inches smaller than you and weighs probably about 25 less pounds than you can take your ass down on a whim, you got to work on your grappling, bro.
Yep, 100%. So that'll be interesting. They also, let's see, Cold Coffee talked a bit about being in Vegas, and he did an interview with Randy Couture about a new charity he's starting. They also talk about how Randy's still fighting for the Ali Act and MMA and some of the class action stuff. And then John Morgan did an interview with Eddie Alvarez about the big upcoming one card that's in the U.S. and talked about that, so that was cool.
I forgot, where in the U.S. is that going to be at?
I don't remember off the top of my head. It's a big card, though. Should be fun. It's actually a really stacked card, especially for one.
I'll say this: if I'm one, because they're based in Singapore.
I believe so, yeah.
which is basically China. No disrespect to Singapore. I would put that shit in fucking San Francisco, so you get all the Chinese population. That's just me. If you're putting it in like region based.
Yeah, San Francisco's weird though because like I don't know if there's any market for anything in San Francisco because no one actually lives in San Francisco. Everybody lives in the Bay Area and commutes.
Yeah,
or
I'm just saying as far as venue base, you put at the Oracle Arena in Oakland. But
but that's what I'm saying though. Is like
but they're making a new one in San Francisco. That's right, because the fucking Warriors are moving. So never mind. But yeah, my point is, you can put a big Asian card in San Francisco. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking region-based, Chinese population-based in the United States.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm like generalizing, but I mean.
Yeah, I just don't know how many people you would actually get out to the venue. You know.
No, you're right. Yeah, in San Francisco, you're too busy at home with your vinyl collection, and you're sniffing your own farts and drinking wine. So I mean, that makes it dropping acid. So.
No, that checks out. Yeah. Definitely, it's still 60 San Francisco up there, evidently.
Oh, and you're driving your fucking autonomous car with your iPhone.
Right, you're
like,
burning.
Hey, look, honey, I'm driving here and going down the hill. Let me see if I can make it back to the house.
Yeah, you're burning piles of electric scooters. I know how it goes. Let's see. The MMA Vivisection was good for this card. It's just really good. It always is, but it was really good for this one. The Hammer MMA was good. It was Steve Jeffrey and Liam Dunlop. I hope that's dude's last name. I hope I'm not butchering that. They were in Vancouver, recapping the Vancouver card, and they also had, what's-his-face, James Lynch come on later, and they were actually drinking Proper 12, and they were enjoying Proper 12. So my favorite part about everyone who says they like Proper 12, it always starts with, I don't like whiskey, but I don't mind Proper 12.
See my reaction?
Oh, no, that's why you don't like whiskey. That's why you like Proper 12, is because it tastes more like vodka than whiskey. It is straight up grain alcohol. So
that's my reaction to that. I just block all of that out.
Yeah, understandably.
Yeah.
Let's see. Weekly Scraps episode 40 was solid. MMA on the Rocks episode 157 was good. It talks about hanging out at Longo's with the MMA and Beyond guys. Coast to Coast Combat Hour was a solid one. Anthony Prettyboy Taylor guested, and he was going off on everybody. Let's see. Severe MMA episode 227. Shawnee Manflu, a.k.a. Shawnee Podcast, a.k.a. The Pod God, which, how dare you, Sean Sheehan. The homies over at Pod Gods, the actual podcast, I'm sure are offended. Shouts to Geo and Lax, dude. Let's see. MMA Wocast episode 131 was solid. MMA by the Numbers, UFC Mexico City. He's back from a hiatus and back doing shows, which is cool. So I like that one a lot. Where he does like stats breakdowns of cards. And our MMA show, I should say, UFC Vancouver. A lot of talk about how nasty Peruvian neckties are and how mad Ryan got at Pereira's style is kind of funny. So worth a listen for sure. Cool, man. Did you have any well-rounded podcasts that aren't about MMA that people should check out? Or shows or anything?
Not a podcast, but it is a stand-up comedy special on Netflix.
Yeah, it's real goddamn good. Billy fucking Freckles is back.
Yeah, old Billy Ballbag.
Oh.
Billy Freckles, whatever you want to call it. Billy Bounty Hunter. Because I just saw, I did watch a podcast where they asked him about, hey, how the fuck did you end up in the new Star Wars show, The Mandalorian? Because you literally always shit on Star Wars and nerds. And basically he said he talked about how he was at some Hollywood thing, because I know his wife, when he met her, was like a talent agent or like an acting agent or something in the acting industry, right? And he said he got invited to a party and he met Jon Favreau, great director.
Shithead person.
Is Jon Favreau a shithead person?
Yeah, for what I've heard, he's not great to be around.
Oh shit. Well, based on just the directing, the movie Chef is cool, and then he did Iron Man, all that, whatever, right? Anyways, the point is, Jon Favreau's like, I want you in my show. Billy Freckles did an episode, and he plays a big bald bounty hunter from Boston, and it's supposed to be great. And basically, Bill Burr said, yeah, I've always talked shit about nerdy shit like Star Wars, but once I saw the trailer, some of the scenes, I was like, dude, this is fucking amazing. Like, I literally can't talk shit anymore. Like, this is going to make so much money. And he's like, I'm happy part. So it's kind of funny seeing being humble. But yeah, my point is, go watch Paper Tiger on Netflix. I just watched it last night. It is fucking goddamn hilarious. And what's even better is that he filmed it at the Royal Theatre in London, England, and they reacted like most American crowds do, and it was great.
Nice.
I loved it. Yeah.
That's what's up, dude.
Go check out Paper Tiger on Netflix.
Oh man. So I had a show that's okay. That is what it is. So I actually have a show this week as well. I figure since it is a Mexico City card, I should shout out a show that I really enjoy, Munchies Todos los Tacos. It's a great show they put out. Essentially, it's a dude who is from, I want to say LA. But it's Southern California anyway. Or, well, I think he originally is from Mexico, but he goes down to Mexico and does shows about like the origins of certain tacos. Like he's done the origins of like the California hard shell taco. He's done like fish tacos, all that stuff. Actually, he even had a Corazon de Torta, the food truck that's always at Society. He had them on since, and evidently they drive up from Mexico every day from TJ, which I did not know.
I don't mean to cut you off, but you know what's happening tomorrow at Society Brewing?
No.
Their Oktoberfest
Oh,
event.
yeah!
I am going to that after work.
Nice.
So I get off work at 6:15, so maybe I'll see you there.
Yeah, I might have to do that. I fucking
It's from 12 to 10, so I will be there for the last couple hours or so.
Nice. Yeah, I fucking love Society Brewing. I'm going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Their Oktoberfests are solid.
I always tell my coworkers, besides the place I work at, my favorite brewery is Society.
Yep.
So shuts up.
Straight up. Speaking of which, I'll ask you off air, but I'm curious.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I can ask you on air since we're not going to say the name of it.
Yeah.
Does your brewery have their own canning line, or do they have like a third-party canners?
We can our own beer on site, and we do can beer for a distributor. Like, they help us distribute. We do can another brewery's beer for them.
Oh, so you guys do have your own line and everything?
We do have our own line. And we do.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. We can our own shit on site.
Cool. Yeah, I actually had the dude at Preferred Liquors, actually. I was talking to him about it, and he was curious about it, so I'll have to let him know. That's cool. Let's see.
I'll just say this, and we have a new beer coming out, and I'll tell you off air, but I'll just say what type it is. It's a hazy IPA. It's a hazy IPA with tangerine.
Ooh.
And it's going to be great.
That sounds real good. One of these days we'll let you guys know where Chris works once we're sure he's not going to get yelled at. Let's see. Oh, speaking of beer, another brewery I really enjoyed, another podcast I really enjoyed this week was Four Brewers, episode 239, going in with Untapped. This is a show with John Holzer, Jason Harris, and Greg Nagel. And they had on, I think Greg Nagel actually wasn't in for this episode, but they had on the guys from Untapped. It's Tim Mather, and I forget other dude's name. But it's a really solid episode. They go in blind, so essentially they have one of the people brings beers, and the other three people try and guess which beer it is. For this episode, I believe it was flagship beers for major breweries. So, like, I believe one of them was Deschutes Black Butte Porter. Another one was DBA, I think. So it's cool. It was a cool episode. And it's always interesting to hear them trying to figure out which beer it is while drinking it. So pretty solid. And then the other thing, dude, have you heard of the YouTube series Defunct Land?
I don't believe so.
It is dope. This dude does a series all on old dead attractions at theme parks. So, like, he's done one on Action Park, that place that, like, everybody has fucking died at back in the 80s.
So Batman the Ride at Six Flags Magic Mountain in
maybe.
LA?
If it has a fucked up story, he's probably done an episode on it. Like, there's some on the old episodes of, the old venues at Knott's Berry Farm, and where they used to have like a nightclub for kids or for like teenagers back in the day, and Disneyland had Videodrome or something.
Club Stars. I did that when I was a teenager. She was so. I mean, when you're a teenager, it's like you're at a nightclub, right? But I remember I went to a couple of those. Oh, and they're fucking San Diego. They have it at the sports arena. I was like, oh my god. That's funny. It's like, we're teenagers, but we're adults for a night. Yay.
Right. Well, plus if I'm guessing there's a lot of booze and drugs that go into places like
Oh,
that.
in the parking lot.
Yeah,
This is-
no, there. Well, it talks about gang fights in the parking lot at Knott's Berry Farm and shit. It's a really great series. They're like 10 minutes apiece. I highly recommend checking it out. Defunct Land on YouTube. It's super dope. But that was the stuff I had to cover this week.
Nice, man.
Cool. Well, we will be back here in a bit to give our picks semi-briefly, probably, as we go through this for this UFC in Mexico City card. Rodriguez versus Stevens. So we'll be back
In
here.
La Ciudad de Mexico.
Seaway. Cabrón. All right. So, yeah, we'll be back. And in the meantime, you guys can listen to this clip of... What was my clip again? Oh, right. MMA Stories. Wild, Wild Midwest Days. And, if you guys are listening on the video version, then you'll know the video is going to end, and we'll start the new one as we go live again for this breakdown, because then it doesn't fuck up the stream like the other way did. So, we will be back. Enjoy the clip.
Liked by the sound of violence.
That's all they have. No cage, no ring, just the mats. And they said, okay, here's what we're going to do. You guys are going to fight on the mat, and we have these guys that have these old school little kicking shields. Like the little, 3 foot by 1 foot shields that you would hold. They used them in American Gladiator when they beat each other up. And these guys are going to run around the outside of the mat, and if you get close to the edge, they're just going to push you in. So like no joke, just like you would see in the stupid karate movies. But that's really what was going on. On top of that, there are men and women in tuxedos and evening gowns drinking champagne watching us fight. There's like 20 or 30 people watching us. So yeah, even more so, I'm thinking, okay, they're going to film us fighting, and they're going to kill us all and throw us in a ditch.
Liked by the sound of violence.
I just continue to return to the idea that you got guys out there stripped to the waist, fighting each other in a steel cage for your enjoyment. And like on top of that, we're going to ask them to lie to us about their physical condition.
Yes.
And go out there and continue to fight if this guy is basically a cyclops, if he's a one-eyed man. If Todd Duffy felt like he was hurt to the point where he couldn't go out there and continue in a fight that he was obviously winning, like, I'm going to take his word for it. I don't think you train to get back in the octagon after 4 years away with the idea of, like, if I get the chance, I'm backing out of this thing.
Generation, are you excited about it all?
Liked by the sound of violence.
That's all they have. No cage, no ring, just the mats. And they said, okay, here's what we're going to do. You guys are going to fight on the mat, and we have these guys that have these old school little kicking shields. Like the little, 3 foot by 1 foot shields that you would hold. They used them in American Gladiator when they beat each other up. And these guys are going to run around the outside of the mat, and if you get close to the edge, they're just going to push you in. So like, like no joke, just like just like you would see in the stupid karate movies. But that's really what was going on. On top of that, there are men and women in tuxedos and evening gowns drinking champagne watching us fight. There's like 20 or 30 people watching us. So yeah, even more so, I'm thinking, okay, they're going to film us fighting, and they're going to kill us all and throw us in a ditch.
Liked by the sound of violence.
I just continue to return to the idea that you got guys out there stripped to the waist, fighting each other in a steel cage for your enjoyment, and like on top of that, we're going to ask them to lie to us about their physical condition.
Yes.
And go out there and continue to fight if this guy is basically a cyclops, if he's a one-eyed man. If Todd Duffy felt like he was hurt to the point where he couldn't go out there and continue in a fight that he was obviously winning, like, I'm going to take his word for it. I don't think you train to get back in the octagon after 4 years away with the idea of, like, if I get the chance, I'm backing out of this thing.